Corrupted Gauntlet is one of the toughest pieces of content I have ever wrangled with. Even with my practice from the normal Gauntlet, it took me about 2 hours to get my first successful completion. After about 20 hours of attempts, I have about a 95% completion rate. This is one of the few pieces of content that practically requires the use of F keys and a solid understanding of gear switching and prayer swapping on the fly. The reason I came back to Gauntlet is because Jagex recently changed the blade of saeldor, the slash Grazi rapier equivalent, so that you can imbue it with 1,000 crystal shards and make it a permanent, non-degrading weapon. The sword is over 180 mil currently and is looking to hit close to 200 mil. If you get incredibly consistent at Gauntlet, keep in mind this is no small feat, pulling in 6.5 gauntlets an hour will garner you on average 5 mil an hour. This is not consistent money like Vorkath because the majority of your money comes from the blades, but if you get the blade on your 400th run each time, you will be making 5 mil an hour. This is the fastest boss you can solo for money in the entire game consistently, besides solo raids or maybe Hydra. Even if the sword drops in value a bit, there is no supply cost, so this should consistently be a better method than Vorkath over time. I want to preface this video by saying you should not necessarily be dropping your Dragon Hunter crossbow and running to Gauntlet to do that instead. Yes, it has no supply cost, and is better if you get even remotely consistent with the insane value of this sword, but it is extremely difficult. There's a reason it is so profitable. Not that many people can do it. My guide should hopefully help you get there more quickly, but if it takes a substantial amount of time to get to the point where you are consistent, the wasted time may be better spent at something less difficult like Vorkath, making consistent cash. If you are a hardcore Iron Man, I would recommend staying away from the Gauntlet entirely, as this is not a safe death. If you're worried about cash and want the pet, or just that shiny red cape, this should hopefully help you as well. You may be asking, why would I do Corrupted Gauntlet over the regular one? Is there a difference? Well, yes, there is. Not only do you get slightly more loot each roll, instead of only 2 rolls in the regular loot table, you will get 3 rolls. Your chance of receiving both the sword and pet goes from a 1 out of 2,000 chance to 1 out of 400 for the sword and 1 out of 800 for the pet. The crystal seed drops also go from 1 out of 120 to 1 out of 50. The loot is not even comparable from regular Gauntlet. The Gauntlet has very high requirements. The main one is completion of Song of the Elves quest, which requires a huge amount of quests and level 70 in most stats. I also wouldn't recommend attempting this with less than 85 in all combat stats. I'd also recommend having a very high prayer level and having Rigor unlocked. You will struggle significantly without Rigor. You don't necessarily need Augury, as my method avoids using the staff, but it might come in handy if you are stuck in a very unlucky run. As far as RuneLite setup goes, unlike Vorkath, there isn't a ton I change. The only things I really change are turning off XP globes and cleaning my UI up as much as possible. You're going to want as much screen space as possible. Moving the enemy health bar somewhere not in the way or removing them entirely can also unclutter the screen a bit, as the massive health bar Jagex program for Hunyef perfectly tells you his health. I keep key remapping turned on and rebound the F keys to my number keys at the top of my keyboard. This makes it much easier to access them. The portal to the Gauntlet is located in Northwest Prifddinas. You're allowed to wear any armor or have anything in your inventory, but you cannot bring a pet into the encounter. These obviously won't come with you into the Gauntlet, so feel free to get your Fashionscape on. Right-click the portal and hit Enter Corrupted to begin. Gauntlet is very similar to Dungeoneering from RS2. You run around a dungeon collecting resources and fight a boss at the end. Gauntlet is this pushed to its limit. You have a time limit before the game teleports you into the boss room, and you are forced to fight him with whatever equipment you have scrounged together. You start with a scepter in your hands. This allows you to open rooms, and you will need to carry it up until the very end because of this. It also provides minor attack bonuses. It's about equivalent to a mithril mace. You also start with a hatchet, pickaxe, and harpoon used for gathering resources. A pestle and mortar is used to grind up shards used to mix potions. You also start with 1 teleport seed that teleports you to the starting room of the dungeon. Nearly everything in the dungeon drops shards, which can be used to craft upgrades at the Singing Bowl. The goal is to get a tier 3 bow and halberd, 3 potions, and 25 paddlefish before you fight the boss. The paddlefish heal 20 each, and the potion restores a flat 30 prayer points, as well as 40 run energy and gives the run saving effect of a stamina potion. Each room can have various enemies or resources you need to harvest. The tier 3 weapons DPS blows any weapon in the main game out of the water. Unfortunately, they are designed this way because you don't get to utilize boost potions or any piece of DPS boosting equipment. Even the armor has no attack bonuses. The damage against Hunyef is going to be slow and sometimes inconsistent because of this. My strategy involves 2 runs through the dungeon. This prevents us from acquiring another crystal seed. In the first run, you will create a C around the starting room and attempt to get 3 ores, wood, and wool. This is enough to craft a full set of tier 1 armor, which is all we need. Making better armor than this in a run is not consistent and inefficient. You also want to collect as many paddlefish as possible from pools you come across, and a weapon frame from killing enemies. I try to avoid killing the high-level wolves, unicorns, and scorpions, as they take a very long time to kill with a dinky scepter, and just stick with spiders, bats, and rats. If you get unlucky, the wolves, unicorns, and scorpions do always drop a weapon frame, so they're not a terrible choice. If you do not find 3 of each main resource, dip into some of the side rooms and try to get the full amount. As soon as you have 30 shards, crush them with the pestle and mortar until you have 30 dust, and drop the pestle, as you won't need it again. Make sure to also drop your pickaxe and hatchet after you have mined and chopped the resources you need respectively, as they are unnecessary. Make sure to also collect any grim roots you see during this run, as you will need a total of 3. If you make it back to the starting room without enough shards for all of the things you need to craft, you can craft just the bow and kill some more enemies to get the shards you need. Once you're back at the starting room, you should have about 3 of each resource, a weapon frame, roughly 12 paddlefish, and plenty of shards. Cook the paddlefish and drop them. Make sure you spam click the oven to 1-tick cook them. It makes it way faster. Run to the singing bowl and craft a tier 2 bow with your weapon frame, as well as 3 vials. If you have 120 shards left, you can also craft the full armor set. If you have less than this, the priority for crafting armors goes body, then legs, then helmet. If you don't have enough shards to craft all the armors, drop all the extra resources on the ground in front of the bowl for later. If you are missing some resources, you can still collect them during the second run. Run to the water pump and fill your 3 vials. Now is the beginning of the second run. You need to run to the outskirts of the map in any direction to hopefully encounter the demi-bosses, a dark beast, bear, or dragon. As you're running to the edges of the map, add any herbs to your vials of water, and then add the dust to complete them. If you do not have enough herbs by this point to make 3 potions, keep your eyes peeled and make sure you get enough by the end of this run. I also like to decant my potion to 4 doses because you will drink a dose of potion before the boss anyway and can drop the vial it produces, allowing you to bring another fish. I recommend changing your Runelight shift-click option on the potions to use to make this process much easier. Once you're at the outskirts of the map, rotate around the edge of the map until you encounter a demi-boss. The goal of this run is to catch the roughly last 12 to 16 paddlefish you need, and find a spike and bowstring, which are dropped by the bear and dark beast respectively. The dragon drops an orb that can craft a staff, which we really don't want. Because augury does not boost damage like the other boost prayers, and the boss has decently high magic defense, this means the staff is a pretty terrible choice if we can avoid it. The halberd can attack up to 3 tiles away, less range than the staff, but the increased DPS more than makes up for it. There are 2 of each boss spread around the map. If you get unlucky and encounter a dragon, it is still worth killing, as if you find another dragon later, you can kill it for one of the other upgrade parts you actually want. Also, if you happen upon 2 bears in a row, or 2 dark beasts, and have an orb in your inventory, it guarantees the second boss you kill will give the upgrade part you want. If you don't have an orb in your inventory, the next piece on a duplicate boss kill is 50-50 for a piece you don't have. Because we only craft tier 1 armor, this gives enough cushion to be very unlucky with finding demi-bosses and still make it to the boss fully geared on time. Make sure to drink a dose of potion either when you run out of energy or would not waste prayer points by drinking. Once you have your fish, both upgrade parts, and a weapon frame, as well as any resources you may have been missing, use your teleport seed to teleport to the beginning of the dungeon. Craft a tier 3 bow and a tier 3 halberd, as well as any armor pieces you may have missed earlier. Drop everything you still have in your inventory besides fish, potion, and your second weapon. Cook all the paddlefish you brought from the second run, and pick up all of the fish from the first run. If you caught any extra fish, you can heal to full health and fill your inventory. You may need to drink another dose of potion and put your prayer points up as well. Enter the room with the Hunyef with your boost prayer and protect ranged enabled. The Hunyef will always start with ranged. The Hunyef is going to challenge your perception of how hard a boss can be. He uses 2 main attack styles, ranged and magic. Both of these can hit a maximum of 13 through prayer, and he will swap these every 4 attacks. Now, should you be praying the wrong style, these attacks can max a 58. He also uses protection prayers, which he will swap roughly every 5 to 6 times you attack him with the correct style. Does this sound like enough balls to juggle? Get ready to juggle some more. The floor will randomly light up, first as red, then a dull yellow. If you are standing on the tiles when they turn yellow, they will damage you 15 to 25 each game tick until you are no longer on them. Let's discuss his attacks. His ranged attacks are a gray spit blob, while his magic attacks are a bright red burst of energy. The Hunyef has several special attacks, all of which also count towards the 4 attacks Hunyef will do before switching styles. While he uses magic, he can randomly throw out a bright pink burst of energy that will instantly disable your prayers. He tends to use this attack once per volley of 4 magic attacks. The ranged attack is much safer to deal with due to this. After about 8 to 14 attacks, the Hunyef will rear up on its hind legs and slam down on the ground, sending out tornadoes that will slowly advance towards you. These damage you for 15 to 25 each tick should one be on top of you, and can stack up if multiple are on you. He sends out 2 tornadoes from 1,000 to 500 health, 3 tornadoes from 500 to 250, and 4 tornadoes from 250 until dead. Should 4 tornadoes stack on top of you, you're going to instantly die. These tornadoes aren't too tough to avoid. You can actually run over them without taking damage. It works similar to running over the traps in the Rogue's Den, where the game actually thinks you are moving 2 tiles at a time. He also has a melee attack that you can only encounter if you stand underneath him for too long. This attack has the exact same exit as his other styles of 58. Because of his massive size and the small room you fight him in, this can be a difficult attack to avoid. Keep in mind also that this is his only attack that does not count towards him changing style. Should you accidentally encounter this, you need to halt your counting for 1 attack. Towards the end of the fight, it becomes extremely hectic. You need to keep track of his attack styles, as well as your own weapon switches, and his tornadoes, and special attacks, as well as the floor, while taking care not to stand underneath the Hunyef. My strategy is to count each attack he throws at me, while keeping track of which prayer he switches to, and swapping my weapon accordingly. When he is throwing ranged attacks, and there are no tornadoes on the field, I use that as an opportunity to drink prayer potions between attacks, as this is the most comfortable part of the fight to do so. When he throws tornadoes, I focus on healing to full health rather than attacking the Hunyef, as making a single mistake in this fight can cost a 10-minute run. Kill times can vary quite a bit. My fastest was about 3.5 minutes, and my slowest was close to 6 minutes. Sometimes your weapons will just continually hit zeros, making the fight just that much harder. I've actually found that quietly counting each attack he throws at me out loud makes it much easier for me to keep track of his attacks, rather than in my head while the chaos is happening. As much as this could be, just for me, give it a try if you were struggling. I have uploaded a separate video going over a kill rundown for the Hunyef, which you can see in the top right of the screen or in the pinned comments. I explain step by step what I am doing and my thoughts throughout the kill. As far as rewards go, a typical drop is around 150k, meaning at 6.5 an hour, without getting sword drops or crystals, brings it to at minimum 1 mil an hour. Average luck, including sword and crystal drops, puts a typical run to 750k, bringing it close to 5 mil an hour. With some lucky sword drops, you can see insane amounts of GP from this place. And that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully some of you will bolster some courage because of this video. Give Gauntlet a shot. It's very fun and challenging content. Leave a like if you liked it, or subscribe. Thanks, guys.